Part 117. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1164. Do these group of venerables really think they can compete for tickets to enter the genius battlefield? However, Jia Yan understood what the other party said, and he understood very well why the half-star said these words now. Every venerable here is a treasure of their respective forces, but if they compete with real geniuses, they will definitely die. It is better to give them a basin of cold water now, which can be regarded as maintaining the future of the star region's forces. Okay, anyway, please keep this in mind. When we set off to the central star region in 2 days, you will understand what I mean. Don't be impulsive then. This is also what the top leaders of your respective forces expect of you. The half-star powerhouse paused, looked at Jia Yan, and then revealed a touch of softness. Of course, Mr. Bai Wangfu, you have every chance to compete for the ticket qualifications. I hope you can bring glory to our star region. What? He can do it, but we can't? I don't agree. Why don't we have a fight to see how different my strength is from him? That's right, I still have a trump card that I haven't used yet. Maybe I can reach this level of strength than Huangfu. The 4 venerable geniuses were all very unconvinced by Jia Yan and started shouting one by one. So, I wonder if Mr. Bai Wangfu can let them know the gap between them and real geniuses. The half-star powerhouse was slightly stunned, and then asked Jia Yan with a troubled face. Okay, Jia Yan nodded. 2 days later, a huge battleship jetted out from the star range of the Red Sky Force headquarters. Lord Jia Yan, the battleship we are riding this time is an ultra-fast curvature engine battleship that we are proud of in the biochemical star field. As long as its speed increases, the theoretical peak speed can reach hundreds of times the speed of light. It only takes 1 month. You can reach the central star area of this star field. What are you talking about? How come Mr. Baireo doesn't even understand this basic common sense? He talks so much nonsense. What should I do if it disturbs your cultivation? The 4 venerable geniuses who were originally extremely arrogant, including the lowly talented Dong Ka, all gathered around Jia Yan and seemed to have great respect for Jia Yan. In fact, that's right. In the past 2 days, Jia Yan let them know what the talent gap is. Even if Jia Yan's exposed strength is not much different from that of 2K who failed, he can show a slightly stronger fighting skills, which makes his strength completely different. In 2 days, he taught 4 geniuses who also go to the central star region, what is the strength to get the tickets. They also gave up the idea of making a splash, and only thought about the central star region, and got the qualification to continue practicing in the central star region. As for the illusory Holy Land Genius battlefield, they didn't even dare to think about it. Will it take another month? In fact, it is not without benefits for this group of venerables to surround Jia Yan. Some of the information they told is also very valuable to Jia Yan. Many of them are information that cannot be found on the internet and the media. Therefore, Jia Yan's attitude was considered enthusiastic, which made the group of venerables who wanted to flatter him even more excited. This Bai Wangfu looks different from the arrogant 2K. It seems that such a person is a strong person. Although 2K is strong, he does not have the demeanor of a true strong man. Several venerables thought so. In space, the battleship equipped with a super-speed engine is indeed extremely fast. Jia Yan controls his super-fast ship to follow in the subspace behind him, and has to use all his strength to catch up. This makes Jia Yan sigh with emotion, every time. A starfield civilization has its own set of civilization technology. The biochemical starfield, at least in terms of technology, is stronger than the genius battlefield. Of course, the main purpose of the genius battlefield is to cultivate geniuses, but it is not for geniuses to use science to enjoy themselves in the battlefield, so it does not introduce more technological things, and it cannot be compared with the biochemical starfield. It is also impossible to continue to practice and improve his strength. During this month, Jia Yan, in addition to occasionally using his free time to study the details of strength such as combat skills, also chatted with a group of distinguished geniuses to deepen his understanding of biochemistry. Understanding of the star field. Because he had a vague feeling that this trip to compete for the genius battlefield ticket would not go so smoothly. Master Jia Yan, I don't know if you have heard of it. Among the geniuses of the previous generations, there was an undercover agent sent by the Empire. His strength reached the pinnacle of the pseudo-stellar level. As a result, he was found out and an undercover agent was placed in charge. A star-level senior took action and killed him on the spot. Haha, I have also heard this rumor. Although the Central Star region has not directly promoted it, the gossip has spread almost throughout the entire star region. I heard that the pseudo-star peak expert is powerful enough to faintly fight against a star. Super powerful, but it was useless. 2 star-level beings took action and killed him directly. The Empire's purpose is to destroy our only genius transport ship, which is simply a joke. When Jia Yan and a group of geniuses were chatting somewhere and heard such a conversation, his whole expression was slightly shocked. There was actually an undercover agent from the Empire who tried to infiltrate the genius team, but was still caught and killed. Moreover, the undercover agent turned out to be a pseudo-stellar peak existence, even powerful enough to fight against stellar levels, but he still died. This news was almost a bolt from the blue for Jia Yan. Because his strength is now not comparable to that of an ordinary pseudo-star, let alone a peak pseudo-star who can compete with a star. The opponent, who was able to sneak into the biochemical star territory, must have been more prepared than Jia Yan, but he was still caught. The Empire is the bordering star domain that has been entangled with the biochemical star domain for tens of thousands of years. They have been at war with the biochemical star domain for so long. They must have known each other deeply, but they were still found. It seems that my infiltration, it's also full of danger. After hearing so much, Jia Yan almost had doubts about his disguise and infiltration. But it doesn't matter. As long as I see the opportunity when the time comes, I don't necessarily have to get the ticket through normal methods. Even if I use some drastic methods, it will be fine. Jia Yan's eyes flickered slightly. If he didn't know the danger of the battle for tickets, he might have just stupidly gone to the game normally. But after knowing that there was a way to identify the infiltrator, or that it was extremely possible to identify him, Jia Yan had prepared. At least he has a trump card. In order to arrive at the genius battlefield as soon as possible and advance to the stellar level, he had to take a risk. Surrounded by these 4 venerable geniuses, the destination was slowly approaching. In the biochemical star field, as early as hundreds of thousands of years ago, an extremely powerful civilization was slowly born. Because the earliest powerful civilization in the entire star territory came from a civilization called the Biochemical Empire, that name continued and became the name of the star territory. Back then, the biochemical star territory was extremely proficient in biochemical technology. In the battle with the extremely powerful civilization empire that surrounded itself, they used a large number of biochemical technology to regain a victory from a disadvantage. In the end, they even under the black hole tactics, they counterattacked the empire, occupied a large amount of the other side's territory, and forced the empire to sign a humiliating territorial reparation treaty that had not been signed since its birth. The biochemical star field has taken off since then. The creatures in the entire star field are the descendants of various biochemical beasts and have extremely outstanding genes, which has led to a gradual explosion of strong people. And in the central star region, which represents the most powerful and prosperous place in the entire star field, the prosperity is as if written in the stars, almost making the eyes of the country sages who just arrived here are about to pop out. Look! A shopping street floating in the starry sky. My God, there are so many creatures in the whole street, and every one of them is at least venerable. Our star field is so powerful. Ah, the people fighting on that battlefield are actually half-star masters. Such masters are all elders in our power. Why do they still have to fight on the battlefield here? Our biochemical star field is so strong. After the super-speed engine battleship arrived in the central star area, the four venerable level geniuses hardly stopped talking. They were all like pure bumpkins, making a fuss about everything they saw. Of course, as the geniuses of the border forces, they were of course extremely surprised by the scenes they saw in front of them. But Jia Yan was not that surprised. After all, he had seen too much of the world. However, the central star area of the biochemical star field is indeed more prosperous than any other star area in the genius battlefield. After all, it is a normal star field, and its business and other aspects are much more complete than the genius battlefield. Jia Yan didn't care about the number of strong men here, because no matter how he compares, except for the fact that the genius battlefield does not have a normal star level, there is a real difference between the biochemical star field and the genius battlefield for strong men below half a star level. 18,000 miles. After all, the genius battlefield gathers all the geniuses from the surrounding star fields. How can a mere biochemical star field be compared with it? Okay, distinguished geniuses, the genius is leading the way ahead. Our Red Sky Force can only send you here. On the next road, the adults from the Central Star region will come to greet you. I wish you all the best here. Everyone is blessed and prosperous, and it is a blockbuster. The super-engine ship that sent Jia Yan and others here could not move forward when it reached a certain starry sky. After the battleship commander had such a conversation with Jia Yan and others, he let them down directly, and then turned around and returned without looking back. To them, this is just a triennial delivery mission. As for geniuses, they met the so-called genius. Even if it was by Wangfu under Jia Yan's pseudonym, they didn't know whether they could get the ticket to the genius battlefield, so they didn't have any ideas to please him. Geniuses, those who can truly become strong are geniuses. This is a normal star field. Compared to the genius battlefield where geniuses are cherished, strength is respected here. You guys are the venerables recruited from the Hongtian Martial Arts Hall, right? Come and check with me. If you are dishonest, be careful. I will let you go home the same way. A Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1165. The voice that suddenly sounded next to the five great geniuses came from a half-star powerhouse. Beside this half-star powerhouse, there is a long passage, and within this passage, there are already many young sages like Jia Yan and others heading towards the passage. And this semi-star powerhouse does not seem to regard Jia Yan and other venerables as geniuses. After all, in Jia Yan's opinion, the opponent's talent is estimated to have reached a low-level talent level, and he can barely enter the genius battlefield. Moreover, his combat power is slightly stronger than that of ordinary geniuses. It seems that he is a low-level genius who came back from the genius battlefield. Jia Yan sighed. Although such a genius would not do well in the genius battlefield, his status would definitely improve a lot if he returned to his respective star field. But in the central area of the biochemical star field, he is just a guide. Of course, Jia Yan also understands that the other party is now the leader, but it does not mean that his status is low. I have met this gentleman. Several venerables stepped forward. Although the other venerables had no way of knowing that the half-star senior in front of them had actually been to the genius battlefield, it did not prevent them from knowing that the person in front of them was an extraordinary half-constant. Star rating. Okay, come here. The other party obviously didn't care about the venerable person in front of him. He just stared at Jia Yan for a moment, then turned around and led the way in confusion. In his opinion, the venerable Jia Yan seems to be an extraordinary venerable, but there are only so many of them. What kind of genius has he not seen in the genius battlefield before? At most, a medium-talented venerable is still the kind of person who can reach medium-level talent. Even if he can reach the genius battlefield, if he can't do well, he will die or be useless in the end, even faster than me. He smiled coldly, put on the face of a senior, and led a group of venerables forward. The one in front is called the Genius Guide. Entering inside, there are several gates where you need to check your strength, talents, and your respective pasts. If any of you have evil intentions, it will be easier to die now if you tell them. The half-star pointed at the road ahead and said words that made Jia Yan's expression slightly condensed. Lead the way. He looked solemnly at the road in front of him. The road was formed by a transparent cover, like a long tunnel that stretched for an unknown distance. In this tunnel, Jia Yan seemed to feel a lot of half-star level auras, and there were even two people with terrifying strength exceeding half-star level. Pseudo-stellar level. There were even more strange colors in Jia Yanfu's eyes. He was not surprised by the appearance of pseudo-stars. After all, this outer star field is not a genius battlefield. There are not many pseudo-stars in the genius battlefield because everyone is a genius and wants to be promoted to a star level, and if you become a pseudo-star level person, there is almost no possibility of being promoted to a star, so no one in the genius battlefield chooses to become a pseudo-star. The situation is different in the outer star fields. Pseudo-stars are very popular. In any powerful star field, the number of pseudo-stars far exceeds those of stellar stars. Although what he said is scary, in fact, as a strong person with a strength level of pseudo-star level, it is impossible for his true identity to be detected so easily by various means. Otherwise, the strong person will not be strong, but will be technology has suppressed it. Jia Yan understands that the methods in this guidance are nothing more than relying on strong methods to detect, or using technology. He is not afraid of strong methods. As long as the star level does not take action personally, he thinks that he will not be exposed. He was worried about technological means, but after thinking about it, if a strong person's experience and strength were so easily detected by technological means, then this galaxy would not be a strong person's galaxy, or even with such powerful technology. But it is definitely not something that the biochemical star territory can master. Otherwise, their war with the Empire would not rely mostly on the methods of the strong, but on technological means. After thinking so much, Jia Yan calmed down a little, and then followed the half-star powerhouse and walked forward. Obviously it was the other party's responsibility to make such a call. Seeing that the venerable person behind him had no reaction, he took the lead and moved forward. The genius leads the way. This is the central area of the biochemical star field, a road specially opened for geniuses who snatch tickets to the genius battlefield. Around this road, there are countless people watching from the outside like a transparent pipe, and media cameras have almost completely captured this tens of thousands of kilometers of road, with almost no blind spots. Look, a new team has come in again. Let me see where they come from. It turned out to be a genius from the western border. Look, our biochemical star territory is really full of talents. Even in such a remote border, there are middle-level geniuses. Look, that white-gray creature is a genius called Tung Ai. The Katong Ai force is a force bordering the starlight domain. The media hosts outside the channel constantly turn their cameras to the newly entered talents. Talents that attract a little attention will be given some footage and explanations. Just like Jia Yan, his profile says he has a medium talent, which is enough for the commentator to explain his origins. Of course, that's it. After talking about his origin, they will immediately switch their camera to the next team. However, there are also different ones, such as a media from the Tung Ai forces, and media from several forces around the Hongtian Martial Arts Hall, all following them all the way. The first level is ahead, and your identities will be tested first. The half-star who led the way saw the first pass in front of the transparent cover, and then explained it to the several venerables behind. When it passes later, there will be technological machines and strong men asking you questions. If you answer no questions, you will be able to get through it. If there are questions, everyone knows what the consequences will be if something goes wrong, so there is no need for him to say anything more. This is the level that Jia Yan cares about most. Even here, he felt the aura of the first pseudo-stellar powerhouse. Ahead was a team that entered earlier than Jia Yan and his team. A wave of aura was passing through the cover, and not long after, the venerable person inside seemed to have passed. Okay, you go in. The half-star creature that led the way turned back to Jia Yan and other venerables and said. Under the leadership of Venerable Na Donka, Jia Yan came to the back of the team and followed him into the passage ahead with a bright look in his eyes. From the perspective of the team at the rear, nothing can be seen inside this passage, but actually entering it, the top, bottom, left, and right are still completely transparent, and the media outside the passage are still filming. Your name is Donka, and you come from the west of my biochemical star field. Jia Yan saw a half-star strong man in front of him and asked about Donka in front of him. What surprised him was that Donka seemed dazed for such a simple question, and then answered it mechanically. Yes, my name is Donka. I come from the west. My father is Dong Dong and my mother is Kaka. So they named me Donka. Is your talent a low-level genius? Have you joined any forces before? Yes, my talent is a low-level genius. I joined before. Jia Yan was behind the venerables, and his eyes were even more surprised when he saw the scene in front of him. You must know that it is difficult for ordinary geniuses to be hypnotized, but this scene happened in front of them. The half-star strong man probably has this talent. Jia Yan can imagine that during the battle, this half-star strong man suddenly used such a talent. It is estimated that strong men with similar strength to him will be able to use it. If you are affected instantly, the battle may turn over. As expected, the universe is so vast that it is full of surprises. The talent of this semi-stellar powerhouse is actually hypnotic. Jia Yan watched for a while, and then faintly felt a strange fluctuation. Then he turned his head and looked behind the semi-star powerhouse. Behind him, on a seemingly transparent wall, there was an astonishing wave hidden. Pseudo-stellar level. Jia Yan turned his eyes away for a moment, then quickly turned his head without daring to look further. A pseudo-star. If he only uses his body combat ability now, he can only barely resist for a period of time and be completely unable to defeat. It would be bad if the opponent discovers it, so he does not dare to do more. Look. The pseudo-star level is obviously the most powerful defense method in this room. After all, the Emperor's infiltration happened before, and the biochemical star field had to guard against it. Donka passed the test quickly. After all, many outside geniuses passed through this channel every day, and it was impossible to question every one of them carefully. At that transparent wall, there was indeed an invisible creature. It's just that the invisibility ability he used was not his own talent, but the effect of technology. Alas, I was chosen for this job again this year. It's too tiring to stay still here. Although we have to guard against the Empire sneaking in, after so many years, no one from the Empire has sneaked in again. Those stars in our biochemical star field, are you too worried, sir? As a pseudo-star, this powerful man has a very high status, but he has been selected as a hidden observer several times in a row, which makes him a little impatient. Another medium-talented venerable. I used to be just a medium-talented venerable. How many years ago did I go to the genius battlefield? Haha, I don't know if this little guy can reach my level in the future. Step. When he saw a gray-white creature walking in front of him, the pseudo-stellar powerhouse nodded slightly. Recently, there are more and more geniuses in their biochemical star field. He has seen several venerables with medium talents before. There was even a genius with a high level of talent walking past before, and that talent made him slightly envious. The moderately gifted venerable person that this pseudo-stellar powerhouse saw was none other than Jia Yan. The four sages who followed Jia Yan in a team have all passed the test and are waiting for Jia Yan ahead. Is your name Bai Wangfu? Are you from the west of my biochemical star field? 8. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1166. Jia Yan came to the half-star powerhouse, his expression slightly solemn at this moment, and heard the other party's question. At the same time, he felt a concussive force coming from in front of him, going straight through his head, and seemed to make him dizzy. He quickly let go of the resistance, making himself slightly dizzy, but of course it was only for an instant. But he pretended to be fainting all the time. Yes, my name is Bai Wangfu, and I come from the west of the biochemical star territory. When Jia Yan called himself Bai Wangfu, the half-star's expression moved slightly, as if he felt something. But when Jia Yan said that he came from the west of the biochemical star field, he was extremely confident, and the slightest trace of something wrong before was extremely indifferent. Weak, it should be that the other party is struggling mentally, so there are fluctuations in etiquette. The half-star thought so, and then nodded. Is your talent a medium talent? Have you joined any forces before? The half-star continued to ask. Yes, my talent is half-star level, and I have joined the Tung Ai force before. Jia Yan only said very simple things based on the idea that the fewer words he spoke, the less likely he would make mistakes. He knew that there was an error in the call, but he felt that his brainwave power was faintly resisting the other party's control. If he didn't hurry up, absolutely counter-pressed directly, and this was exposed. Well, good, you can go over. The half-star didn't look at Jia Yan's information and let Jia Yan pass. Jia Yan felt that the power controlling his head suddenly disappeared, and then he pretended to be shocked, imitating the shocked expressions of the previous sages who had recovered from their trances, nodded and wanted to move forward. Wait, at this moment, the pseudo-star within the transparent wall suddenly spoke. Jia Yan's whole heart suddenly tightened. Before, he wasn't worried about the semi-star level creatures in front of him. The only thing he was worried about was the hidden pseudo-star level powerhouse. Unexpectedly, he was still lured out. Outside the channel, in the media from Tung Ai forces, the host was already talking happily about Jia Yan. The player Byarafo who represents our force has passed the first level. Next, he will follow the team, huh. Although the host creature looked like a monster, it was also full of a special charm. At this moment, it seemed to be ugly, but the people around it had no time to see her ugliness. Because at that first level of inquiry, a shocking change suddenly occurred. In the transparent place where the wall was originally, a creature that was about 1 kilometer in size appeared faintly. Master False Star? Oh my God! The host was so frightened that he almost fell down. Except for the senior officials of the Central Star Territory and Jia Yan, who had known it for a long time, no one knew that there was a pseudo-star level powerhouse hiding here in disguise at the inquiry desk at the first level. Moreover, this powerhouse, he actually showed up. You just said that you are from the Tung Ai force, right, but the information I have here shows that you are not from the Tung Ai force. The pseudo-stellar powerhouse did not pay attention to the shock around him. At this time, he just let out a little of his momentum and completely locked onto Jia Yan in front of him. Jia Yan's whole expression was slightly solemn. In fact, when the other party showed signs of appearing, he quickly adjusted his expression and pretended to be shocked. This senior, I do not completely belong to the Tung Ai force. In fact, I have always been a wandering strong man in the west of the star field. The Tung Ai force has given me such an opportunity this time, and I have already regarded them as I belong to the Force. Jia Yan replied respectfully, hesitantly. At the same time, he also prepared for the worst, his brainwave power surged, and he made a decision at the same time. As long as an accident occurred, he would immediately break the transparent passage around him and escape to the outside world. As for whether he can escape, he believes that with his space talent, it is definitely possible, unless someone with a star level takes action. And even if there is a stellar attack, with the remaining 2/5 of his blood essence diluted, the chance of escape is very high. Because he was confident, the words he spoke appeared to be very calm. As a result, the pseudo-star powerhouse who revealed his figure was looking at Jia Yan deeply at this moment, but could not see any guilty expression. Did I really make a mistake? He couldn't help but doubt himself. You can pass. After a long silence, he slowly disappeared again. You guys come with me. The low-level talented semi-star powerhouse who led the way saluted the invisible pseudo-star powerhouse, and then shouted to Jia Yan and others. Several venerables all knew that there was a being on the wall who was more terrifying than half a star. At this moment, almost every one of them had their hearts beating wildly. While sighing that this place deserves to be the central star sector, they also saluted the wall, and then walked forward. Fang led the way to leave the half-star level. It wasn't until the passage at the back turned a corner and could no longer be seen that Jia Yan felt quietly relieved. It was too dangerous to be spotted by a pseudo-star level powerhouse this time. Fortunately, his mentality is good enough, otherwise he might be exposed. However, the other party may also deliberately pretend not to see through me. In short, next, you have to be more careful and run away if you see the slightest sign of trouble. Jia Yan's expression became more solemn, and then he raised his mind to the highest limit, and quietly locked the location of the two pseudo-star powerhouses within tens of thousands of miles without letting the other party notice. Without directly locking on the opponent's body, there is no fear that the opponent will notice it. After all, Jia Yan's brainwave power has reached the same level as the opponent. The next place to test is about strength. Jia Yan had fought against Tuke before, and he directly simulated Tuke's level in this level. His performance can be said to be quite satisfactory, not much different from that of a venerable person with moderate talents. Very good, I can confirm that you have reached the middle level of talent. You will have a great chance next time. Come on. The half-star who was testing looked at Jia Yan deeply and seemed to be very optimistic about him. You must know that the biochemical star territory transports geniuses every 3 years, so frequently, so the average number of geniuses with medium talent each time is not too many. What is certain is that Jia Yan, a genius with medium talent, although it's just barely achievable, but there's a huge chance. This half-star test level half-star powerhouse is just an ordinary half-star powerhouse. With the lifespan of a half-star level powerhouse, maybe he will not die in the future. Jia Yan will come out of the genius battlefield. Became his leader, and even reached the pseudo-star level, so he had to treat every moderately gifted genius well. Thank you for your guidance, senior. Jia Yan responded respectfully. Congratulations, Mr. Bai Wangfu, for confirming your talent. You must know that in each session of mid-level talent masters, 70% may become one of 1,000 people. Almost every one of the 4 sages who came with Jia Yan respected Jia Yan even more at this time. Although everyone knew before that Bai Arifo had a moderate talent, they had doubts because there was no formal test to verify it, but now it is completely confirmed. So his attitude became better, and even the half-star strong man who led the way looked at Jia Yan with a softer look. The next step is to specifically measure your talents. You must know that many strong people have innate talents. For example, some strong people have extremely hard bodies, and some have spatial talents. Many venerables only vaguely feel these talents. Your abilities are not outstanding, but if you pass the test, your talents will be highlighted and you will be trained in a targeted manner in the future. The half-star genius explained something to the venerables, and then led them to fly forward. A head is indeed a place where extremely complex technology detects talents. It not only detects the explicit talents of the venerables through special methods, but also detects various hidden talents through more wonderful technologies. You actually have a talent for speed. Yes, you can take the path of speed in the future. You must know that among the strong, speed is the only advantage that cannot be broken. The previous venerables tested and the others were just average, but Donka, a low-level genius, actually detected a talent for speed, which made the half-star powerhouse who led the way extremely satisfied. Next it was Jia Yan's turn. After a round of strange tests, even though Jia Yan tried hard to hide it, his spatial talent was still detected. Well, what a terrifying space talent, compared to Huangfu, Your Excellency, you actually have space talent, and you are so powerful. If you take the path of space talent in the future, you will definitely become an extremely terrifying space talent. The half-star leader. When he saw Jia Yan's space talent value, his neck almost bulged. You must know that ordinary space talent experts will never be able to shock him, because even if the space talent is small, it will not be much less. But when he saw the numerical value that Jia Yan tried hard to hide, he was still shocked, because the numerical value represents that Jia Yan is likely to reach a level where he can enter the subspace in battle in the future. Being able to enter the subspace means immortality to a certain extent. Unless there are special means or a huge amount of energy is wasted in attacking, it is difficult to kill creatures hiding in the subspace, which is why he was shocked. Of course, he didn't know that Jia Yan had already entered the subspace, and he was still in shock. Haha, thank you for your words. Jia Yan also showed an expression of extreme surprise, otherwise something would have been seen. The subsequent tests were even simpler. They were nothing more than some written tests and drawing on the screen, although Jia Yan could not completely guess what the other party was testing. Still, he didn't feel exposed. Everyone is better, my responsibility is over. Please work hard next, and I have something to say to Mr. Bai Wangfu. The genius battlefield is not as beautiful as you think. If you can go to the genius battlefield, please be mentally prepared. The half-star being who led the way seemed to be extremely optimistic about Jia Yan, and even looked at Jia Yan in a different light because of his talent in space. Thanks for the advice. Jia Yan nodded slightly, but he had long sighed in his heart. Genius battlefield is not that easy to mess with, he probably knows more than the other party. But even so, he still had to work hard to return. The longer he stayed in the outside world, the more he felt that there would be more benefits in advancing to the star level in the genius battlefield. A Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1167. Competing for the ticket to enter the genius battlefield is an extremely important event for the biochemical forces. Once every 3 years, they can transport the most powerful geniuses in the star territory to the genius battlefield, and then train them in the genius battlefield. They do not seek to become a star, even if they become a semi-star who fully displays their talents, for as far as the biochemical star field is concerned, it is also extremely powerful in combat. Both the high-level people in the biochemical star territory and the lower-level people and creatures in the biochemical star territory attach great importance to this battle. Did you see it? Our Bai Wangfu player from the Tung Ai force actually successfully passed the genius guidance this time after causing a pseudo-stellar adult to come forward. The pseudo-stellar adult who came forward before must represent that person. As a pseudo-star master, I attach great importance to Mr. Bai Wangfu. If Lord Bai Wangfu can achieve outstanding performance in this genius ticket battle, it will definitely bring more benefits to our Tung Ai forces. Here, all the people of Tung Ai forces, please support our Bai Wangfu. Come on, Your Excellency. The photography team of the Tung Ai force followed Jia Yan almost all the way. You must know that the Tung Ai force has rarely seen a strong person representing their force come to this battle for tickets in the Central Star District for hundreds of years. Although this person, when the genius said it, it seemed that he was not a member of their force, but he was a representative, and he could already make Tung Ai's force extremely proud. Of course, if the Tung Ai forces knew that this representative did not mean well at all, they would probably cry to death from top to bottom. After leading the way through genius, all geniuses will have a fresh break. And they are the genius stars who have all been assigned to the central star area of the biochemical star field, where almost every genius is likely to meet. Even among these geniuses, there are cases where they apply for battle before they even enter the battle for tickets. Of genius. For the Tung Ai forces, being able to enter this battle for geniuses is an extremely rare and important day, but for more powerful forces, this is simply like a routine event that they must participate in every 3 years. They are not that particular about it. When they encounter an opponent or a genius from a hostile force, it is normal for them to provoke and trigger a battle. No, the low-level talent Donka who came with Jia Yan met an enemy genius who was adjacent to his power but did not go through the same martial arts school to compete for talents. Donka? It turns out that you can come to this genius battle. Huh, it seems that your power is really in decline. When the enemy genius saw Donka, a flash of disdain suddenly flashed in his eyes. What do you mean? The battle for the ticket has not started yet. If you are willing to fight with me before then, I will also be happy to accompany you. When Donka saw his old rival, he stepped forward and gave him a cold look without any sign of weakness. Oh, you think I'm afraid of you? Go ahead. There happens to be a challenge platform 2 kilometers away. The challenger faced Donka for a few steps, but he suddenly turned his head again. You trash, you can come here if you dare. The brothers in our team are just trying to give you some color on the trash recommended by Hongtian Martial Arts Hall. The geniuses on both sides came to the Central Star region through different martial arts forces, and the Hongtian Martial Arts Hall happened to have some differences with the other side, which led to frequent wars between the geniuses from the two sides. Let's fight. We'll gladly accompany you to beat up the trash from the Tianwu Hall. The group of geniuses around Jia Yan were all filled with righteous indignation, and seemed to be extremely concerned about the identity of those who came out of the Hongtian Martial Arts Hall. Jia Yan really wanted to tell them that he was not going to participate, but at this moment he had to put on a cold expression. Otherwise, he would seem too out of tune with the current environment. In his helplessness, a group of geniuses walked towards the battle platform not far away. There's another good show, this time it's a battle between two teams from the countryside. Haha, it's interesting to watch the battles between losers occasionally. Come over and have a look. The geniuses around them all looked at the two sides fighting openly and secretly with smiles, and then followed behind, as if they wanted to see the final result of the battle between these two rural teams as they called them. Of course, they don't care at all who wins or loses. For most teams from the stars, the two teams from the border are almost synonymous with weakness. Which one of you goes first? Arriving at the battle platform in mid-air, a venerable member of the opposing team jumped onto it and asked calmly. I'll do it. Among the venerables on Jia Yan's side, a moderately powerful one looked around and then jumped up. Your Excellency Bai Wangfu, this group of people is outrageous. Taking advantage of their geographical location to be closer to the center than us and having more resources, they bully us every time in the genius ticket battle. This time we must defeat them. Donka took advantage of that venerable person to come to the stage to fight with the opponent, and came to Jia Yan and explained to him the historical disputes between the two parties. It turns out that the two sides belong to the same star sector, and there have always been wars and disputes. This battle continued into the genius ticket battle. Almost every genius has to fight before competing for the ticket. As for the Hongtian Martial Arts Hall, which has always been weak in bringing in talents, it loses almost every time. Especially in a few games, the opponent beat the talents here to the point where they were unable to participate in the ticket competition, making the Hongtian Martial Arts Hall the leader of the entire tournament. Laughing stock. When Jia Yan listened to the other party's explanation absent-mindedly, the result of the battle on the stage had already appeared. It's really rubbish. The middle-ranked Venerable here was easily defeated within 10 moves. Next, the victorious Venerable had no intention of stepping down. The Venerables look at me and I look at you, but no one dares to say anything. Donka shook his head at Jia Yan, then stood up. Let me do it. He went up to the fighting platform, and then another Venerable stepped forward and took over Jia Yan's explanation. The Venerables here all know that Jia Yan is not a member of the Tung Ai force, but only a Tung Ai in name. Therefore, he definitely does not have a strong sense of belonging to their side. If Jia Yan cannot be helped to help them, maybe he will wait. After a while, Donka lost. This time the competition between the two parties will definitely end in another big defeat. Mr. Bai Wangfu, the people on the other side are really disgusting. Just wait and see, they will propose a gambling battle after winning. In the past few sessions, there was a genius who was the son of a powerful leader because he was aroused to be competitive. And ended up losing a livable planet. Huh? Is it okay to have such a big gambling battle? Jia Yan was startled, knowing that it was a livable planet. You don't understand. At this moment, we are representing the face of our respective forces. Even if a livable star is of great importance, for the sake of the power's face, we gritted our teeth and took it out. Unfortunately, we still lost that time. Bai Huangfu sir, if there is any crisis this time, please take action. We don't want the winning prize from the final bet, we will give it all to you. The venerable man stated his request, and then saw wisps of light flashing in Jia Yanfu's eyes. He was not unmoved. If such a big gambling battle could be converted into something else, it would be okay for him to use a little strength, especially when Jia Yan saw that although the opponent team was stronger overall, the strongest he is still a moderately gifted venerable. Let's see later. If it's a planet, other people's hearts will be moved, but mine won't be moved. Jia Yan smiled and shook his head. That's right. Your Excellency is going to the genius battlefield. Gambling on a planet is nothing. I'll see if I can change it into something more portable later. When the sage heard Jia Yan's words, his eyes lit up, because Jia Yan didn't mean what he said. While they were talking, Donka had finished the battle. He is indeed a low-level genius. Even to Jia Yan, his strength is no different than a joke, but against the opponent's challenger, it is still very easy to win. Humph, Donka, don't be happy, let me defeat you. The opponent's venerable provocateur jumped onto the fighting stage while laughing. Donka's expression became solemn, because the two parties had known each other for a long time, and he knew that this venerable man was also a low-end genius like him. Wait, Donka, I think you should know our rules. How about a little more winning bet this time? The genius had just entered the battle arena that day and did not take action. Instead, he spoke to Donka calmly. You've done enough. It happens every time. Do you think we will still be fooled? Donka's expression was extremely ugly. Oh. We are not forcing you, but are you sure you want to refuse? Donka, I thought you had the talent, but I didn't expect you to be even less talented than the people in the previous sessions. Then His Holiness laughed. Donka's expression changed slightly, then he turned his head and looked at Jia Yan, and then at the venerable man next to Jia Yan. Seeing the venerable man calmly nodding to him, Donka felt reassured. Okay, let's just gamble. Should we divide it into single-person gambling and group gambling? Donka asked. The venerable man obviously also saw Donka turning his head. Following Donka's gaze, he also looked at Jia Yan. He only felt a strength that he could not detect at all, which lightly suppressed him. Then he groaned and his expression changed. Because he knew that the venerable person Danka was looking at was actually a genius that surpassed him. He also turned around slightly and felt confident when he saw a huge venerable man behind him smiling and gesturing to him. That's right, divided into singles and groups. Do you dare? Why don't you dare? After Danka received Jia Yan's approval, he no longer had any scruples. Even if he and others lost, there was still a Bai Wangfu with unfathomable strength behind him, and he was not afraid. Fighting between the two sides soon broke out. Danka's strength is worthy of that of a low-level venerable. Compared with previous venerables who have not reached the low-level genius level, Danka's strength is much more powerful. But the other party was also a low-level genius, even slightly more powerful than Danka. Finally, under a move, Danka was hit by the opponent without noticing. Seeing that the opponent was about to pursue him again, Danka quickly changed his demeanor and shouted, "I surrender." Trash, the low-level gifted venerable who was familiar with Danka spat lightly, and then looked at Jia Yan with shining eyes. "Here, come up," he pointed at Jia Yan and said. 8. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1168. For geniuses in the general star field, there is not much concept of the difference between geniuses. Moreover, geniuses who have not been trained in the genius battlefield cannot fully exert their respective strengths, so it is entirely possible for low-level ones to defeat mid-range ones. As soon as this low-level genius defeated Danka, he set his sights on Jia Yan, and his fighting spirit was boiling. It seemed that he had not spent much effort defeating Danka before. Danka left the field with a dejected expression, then came to Jia Yan and looked at him expectantly. Jia Yan smiled, but did not move, but asked with panic in his eyes. "You can fight if you want me to, but I don't know what the bet is this time. What we are negotiating this time is a group battle, and the bet is just like the last time, it is a livable planet." Danka responded beside Jia Yan. Jia Yan shook his head, "I'm going to the genius battlefield. A livable star is of no use to me. If I don't change it to something else, I won't fight." "Ha, you want to go to the genius battlefield? You are so bold on the battlefield," the venerable who had just defeated Danka showed a sneer. "Every time a genius comes to participate in the ticket battle, like a crucian carp crossing the river, even if you are a moderately gifted genius, there is a 30% chance that you will be eliminated. After all, moderately gifted geniuses are not all powerful, and I think what you are saying. You can't even compare to a low-level genius in terms of strength, right? I guess 90% of a middle-level genius like you won't be able to get a ticket," he said with a smile. He originally thought that this would be able to mobilize Jia Yan's fighting spirit, but he didn't expect that Jia Yan still looked unmoved. "You can fight me if you want, but come up with your bet. As long as I like it, I will let you see the strength of a real genius." Jia Yan shook his head with a provocation. Seeing that he was not moved by the sarcasm at all, the expression of the venerable on the battlefield changed, and then he said cruelly, "How about I use my family's biochemical mediation stone to bet with you? If you lose, don't just lose the planet you mentioned before to us." Biochemical mediation stone, Jia Yan was stunned for a moment. He didn't know what it was, so he ignored the scene and had so many people watching it. He just turned on his brain and did a little investigation. Bumpkin, the venerable man's expression became even more contemptuous when he saw that Jia Yan didn't even know what the biochemical mediation stone was. Huh. During the investigation, Jia Yan's expression gradually became serious, and then he made a slight sound of uncertainty. This biochemical mediation stone, at first glance, seemed to be extremely ordinary, but as he investigated the specific information about this object, Jia Yan's eyes immediately burst into surprise. It turns out that the biochemical mediation stone is actually something that even half-stars covet. The original origin of the biochemical star field came from a group of biochemical beasts of a certain extinct race. After that race of biochemical beasts rebelled and destroyed the race that created them, they continued to modulate themselves based on the biochemical system, and slowly countless civilizations and races have evolved in today's biochemical star field. But this extremely powerful biochemical modulation ability has gradually come to an end in hundreds of thousands of years. For the creatures in the biochemical star field, there is no possibility of adjusting their own genes, except for some products that consume a lot of resources and technological capabilities. Except for the items that come out, there is no possibility of modulating itself. And this biochemical mediation stone is a high-end thing that can even make people at the pseudo-star level be excited. Each creature can use the biochemical mediation stone once. Once used, it will have no effect. This biochemical mediation stone will make the creature genetically adjust itself in a more powerful direction. You must know that this is not something that only biochemical starfield creatures can do. It can be used by outside creatures as well. It can be said to be a powerful high-end trading item in the famous starfield near the biochemical starfield. Jia Yan took a fancy to this biochemical mediation stone. I don't know if my evolved beast body can also be effective, and if it takes one, although other creatures can reach the limit with one, I am an evolved beast and cannot be compared with ordinary creatures, he thought solemnly. Then Jia Yan raised his head and shook his head. I accept the bet with biochemical mediation stones, but if there is only one, it will not be equivalent to a livable planet. At least 3 are needed, he said with gleaming eyes. 3. The venerable man on the high platform looked back at his accomplices below. Seeing that they all nodded solemnly, he turned back to look at Jia Yan. 3 is a lot, but we can still get it together with a few of us, but don't think you can win. If you can't beat me, it's just a joke. Now come up here. Seeing that the other party agreed to the bet on the biochemical mediation stone, Jia Yan smiled. Then his eyes flew up to the battlefield with even more brilliance. To be honest, he had no interest at all in this bet between the 2 star regions before, even if the bet was about a U-dwelling planet, because he could not operate in the biochemical star field. But things are different now. He is very interested in the biochemical mediation stone, especially looking forward to whether the mediation stone will have such a miraculous effect on evolved beasts. Before Jia Yan's body reaches the star level, it is theoretically impossible to be powerful at all, but if this biochemical mediation stone is effective. The look of anticipation in his eyes was even more prominent. You are finally willing to come up. A moderately gifted venerable person is so coy. It seems that your strength is not strong. The opponent looked at Jia Yan with a look of contempt on his face. Just when he wanted to continue to insult Jia Yan suddenly spoke calmly. I don't know if we can start now. I'll kill you as soon as possible and go back to rest early. So arrogant. You actually said that we should be destroyed as soon as possible. He thinks he is a high-level genius. It's just crazy. He dares to say that even if he doesn't know the strength of our side. Almost all of the opponent's venerable people in the audience roared like an explosion. They could accept Jia Yan's desire to fight quickly. Even if he looked down on the venerable person he was fighting with, they could understand. After all, in their eyes, Jia Yan is a medium-talented venerable, and he has the right to look down on a low-talented venerable. But he actually said that he would deal with them as a whole as soon as possible, which was unacceptable to the other party. You must know that among the 5 of them, except for the venerable who lost to Donka before, the rest are all above low-level talents. There is even a medium-level talent. The one who is fighting Jia Yan now is only the weakest one with low-level talents. If you want to despise them all, why won't they get angry? The venerable Jia Yan faced him was also furious, especially when he saw Jia Yan looking at him, almost as if he were looking at a harmless little sheep. He became even more furious. Since you want to fight, then fight. If you underestimate me, you will have to pay the price. Defeat me. He lifted up his spider-like feet and slammed them towards Jia Yan. The opponent's foot was like a sharp sickle. As soon as he hit it like crazy, the sharp feeling filled the entire space, almost splitting the air. Is it the price? I'll let you see what the price is. Jia Yan shook his head lightly, then stepped forward and thrust out the same front foot. The front feet of both sides collided like lightning, so fast that even the low-level geniuses around them had no time to react. As for the moderately talented venerable member of the opposing team, his confident demeanor suddenly changed slightly at this moment. Puff! Under Jia Yan's stab, the spider-like monster's forefoot was completely severed from the middle. The sharpness of the opponent's forefoot was as small as a giant in front of Jia Yan's front foot, and it was broken without any resistance. Ah! You are so cruel. The monster with spider-like front legs felt severe pain and came to its senses in shock. Do you admit defeat or not? Jia Yan wounded the enemy with one blow and did not pursue him. With this kind of existence, killing or not killing him was meaningless. I admit defeat, the other party gave up in a flash of hatred. Don't step down, the bet hasn't been given to me yet, Jia Yan said. The venerable who had broken his foot looked calm for a moment, and then turned around fiercely. We talked about team battles. When you can really win us together, we will give it to you. Don't worry, we are not country people like you. Dude, I won't default on my debt. Oh, that's it. Jia Yan heard that he wanted to give it together and thought that the other party would not default on the payment, so he nodded and went to Shiyuan to stand on the battlefield and wait for the next opponent. Your name is Bai Wangfu. You're not from their region, but you actually fight for them. Don't you think it's too much to care about? The second venerable came on stage, a lowly talented venerable who was slightly stronger than the previous venerable. You challenge me, and then you say that I have too much control. Stop nagging and just fight. I told you to finish the fight and go back to rest. Jia Yan shook his head disdainfully. You. Seeing that Jia Yan was not affected by his words, the venerable man came in directly without saying anything. These low-level talented lords have always held the idea that they can fight across levels. After all, they have not been to the genius battlefield to cultivate talented people, so the gap between talents is not huge. But they were destined to be wrong. Jia Yan's talent was not just that of an ordinary talented person. Even the talent he showed now was all fake. His actual combat power is able to stand up to a pseudo-star level powerhouse. Even those from the biochemical star field, let alone those from the biochemical star field, would probably not be able to believe it. After several pretended battles, Jia Yan defeated two low-level talented masters in a row. It seems that your strength is really good, but you will definitely lose to me. The last venerable opponent, and a venerable with a medium talent level, looked at Jia Yan solemnly, and slowly came up to the stage. His self-confidence is extremely strong, because he has also fought with a group of companions around him, and he has always won with one move. Jia Yan needed several moves to deal with this group of companions, and he saw his advantage. 10 minutes will pass. This moderately gifted venerable man who had fought with Jia Yan for thousands of moves was thrown off the platform in an awkward manner. His confidence was gone. You, bastard, you actually concealed your strength. You made me so angry. 8. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1169. A group of opponents venerables who were full of confidence were completely defeated by Jia Yan. Okay, take out the biochemical mediation stones I mentioned. 3 of them. Don't count them wrong. Jia Yan didn't care about the other party's clamor and just urged him lightly. Just 3 biochemical mediation stones, of course we will not refuse. The 5 creatures showed murderous intent in their eyes at the same time, but they did not dare to actually fight Jia Yan here, So they had to take out the things they said they had made in the bet and handed them into Jia Yan's hands. Is this the biochemical mediation stone? Jia Yan looked at the items he had wrapped with biochemical power, and a strange color appeared in his eyes. In Jia Yan's eyes, the biochemical mediation stone is a white translucent stone, and there is a faint track like water flow inside the stone. In Jia Yan's eyes, this white stone is only the size of a human head and has almost no effect in his opinion. I can't feel its effect. Doesn't it have a big impact on me? It's strange. Originally, according to the explanation on the internet, Jia Yan was sure that this item must have some effect on him, but when he actually got it, the instinct of the evolved beast did not react at all. This made Jia Yan a little unhappy. After a fight, he got 3 useless pieces of trash. Okay, country bumpkin, we'll give you the things. See you later. The other 5 creatures left angrily. Donka, is this the biochemical mediation stone? Jia Yan turned around and asked Donka. Although he was sure that the other party would not deceive people with fake goods, it was always better to ask more. Donka stared at the white stone in Jia Yan's hand for a while, then nodded solemnly, yes, this is the biochemical mediation stone. Hearing what he said, Jia Yan sighed deeply in his heart, thinking that he was probably not suitable for using this kind of item, and then put the 3 biochemical mediation stones into the armor. This gambling incident was just an episode for Jia Yan, although it seemed that the Tung-Ai media that came over made a big report on the incident, and even interviewed Donka and the other 2 people involved. A participant in the war, but to Jia Yan, it was just a small event in a tense and disguised life. He refused the request for an interview, and then quietly released his brainwave power in the Genius Star area where he was located. He is already very confident in his brainwave power. The previous pseudo-stars did not notice the fluctuations in his brainwave power. At this time, he just needs to be careful. There seems to be no star-level genius here. It will definitely not cause danger. Jia Yan is investigating the dangerous area on the planet. If you don't know it, Jia Yan is almost frightened. After secretly investigating, he saw that there were actually 2 places on the planet with extremely terrifying artillery fire. Jia Yan's brainwave power quietly approached, and he actually felt the danger of life and death. These 2 artillery fires are definitely not ordinary artillery fires. If a battle does occur, be careful. Jia Yan solemnly recorded these 2 places of artillery fire, and then continued to investigate. Perhaps there were enemy pseudo-stars that had sneaked into the Genius ship ticket battle before, so this Genius planet was definitely like an iron barrel. Jia Yan observed carefully and inspected more than 20 kinds of powerful combat tools. He even suspected that on this Genius star, there were about 5 pseudo-stars. In addition to the 2 guys on the Genius Guide, there were 3 others. As for the Stellar class, there should be no such thing. After all, it would be overkill if a Stellar class person was required to attend the triennial Genius ticket competition every time. Your Excellency Byarafu, tomorrow is the time of the ticket battle. I wonder if you have confidence in yourself. Just as Jia Yan was secretly observing the dangers on the Genius star and thinking about countermeasures, he finally failed to resist the media request from Tung-Ai forces and accepted an interview with them. Of course I am confident, but it also depends on luck. There have been precedents in the past where powerful mid-level geniuses encountered more powerful high-level talents, and ended up being swept out of the Genius ticket competition. Jia Yan gave a decent answer. By the way, I heard before that you represented our power and defeated the representative of the sector who often bullied our sector. What do you think of their strength? The person being interviewed was the female anchor creature who looked strange but looked quite pleasing to the eye. At this moment, she was opposite Jia Yan, almost seeming to seduce him. Of course, it is impossible for Jia Yang to have any interest in alien creatures. Ignoring the anchor's charm, Jia Yan responded to the other person's question with a smile. Of course their strength is extremely terrifying, especially the last player. His talent is almost the same as mine, but his character is not good enough. I concealed some of my strength and exploded at the end, and he was defeated. Well, that's it. Obviously the female anchor already knew the process of that battle, or she had been talking about it several times a day in the past few days. Maybe she was more familiar with the details of that battle than Jia Yan himself. Then you also got the 3 biochemical mediation stones that the other party promised, right? It is said that these biochemical mediation stones are extremely valuable. If 3 of them are sold, they will be equal to the value of a habitable planet in our border star area. Sir Bai Wangfu, can you open our eyes? Sure. Jia Yan smiled again, but the smile was a little bitter, because the biochemical mediation stone he obtained did not seem to have any effect. He had been at Genius Star for a few days, and he had used it to study it every day, but he had gained nothing. Along with the power of brain waves, a biochemical mediation stone flew out from the armor Jia Yan was wearing. Everyone in the audience, have you seen it? This is the legendary biochemical mediation stone of extremely high value. This is the first time I have seen the real thing. Thank you for your generosity, Mr. Bai Wangfu. It's nothing. Jia Yan smiled bitterly in his heart and was about to put away the biochemical mediation stone. He thought that if he could exchange these 3 mediation stones for a drop of blood essence of a galaxy-level powerhouse, he would be more happy. But the female creature suddenly said, "It seems to me that Sir Bai Wangfu hasn't activated them yet, right? I once interviewed the scientific researchers responsible for studying biotechnology in our Tung Ai force. They said that the biochemical mediation stone needs to be activated first can be used." Huh? Activate? Jia Yan was shocked, and then looked at the female creature in front of him with brilliant eyes. He had previously investigated the biochemical mediation stone, but he had not seen any article on the internet that mentioned the activation process. It seems that even though this thing is famous, it is too high-end and the real method of using it cannot be found on the internet. Donka and other venerables thought that since Jia Yan agreed to the bet, they thought he must know how to open it, so they didn't mention it. As a result, it was only now that Jia Yan knew about the biochemical mediation stone and actually had a secret method to open it. I wonder what this so-called activation is all about. Jia Yan's whole body was close to the female anchor, so frightened that she leaned her whole body against the rear camera. Sir Bai Wangfu, I just heard that because the mediation stones are used for mediation, before using them, their frequency needs to be adjusted to the same frequency as the brain waves of the living being. You can use the power of brain waves to slow down, adjust slowly. The female anchor was startled and responded tremblingly. In fact, she didn't know much. Okay, thanks for the interview today. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Jia Yan's eyes lit up and he left the specially arranged interview room without looking back. Sai, the female anchor, was stunned for a moment, then shook her head helplessly. Haha, it seems that the charm of our famous #1 anchor of the Tung Ai force cannot impress Mr. Baireo. The filming team behind made teasing remarks to the female anchor. Don't make fun of me. I am a moderately gifted genius. If I can go to the genius battlefield in the future, I will definitely have a bright future. How can I, a mere border anchor, be interested in me? But the material is enough, hurry up and start production. Jia Yan ignored the reaction of the group of media behind him and only thought about the female anchor's words at this time. He flew all the way to the genius room where Donka was. Hey, Mr. Bai Wangfu, didn't you just go for an interview? Why did it end so quickly? Donka is adjusting his condition in the room for tomorrow's first ticket battle. Donka, you know how to use the biochemical mediation stone, right? Ask Shiyuan to tell me about it. This is very important to me. Jia Yan did not talk about other topics and put forward his main purpose. Don't you know how to use the biochemical mediation stone at all? Okay, Donka didn't expect Jia Yan to be so ignorant. You must know that although it is difficult to find the specific use of the biochemical mediation stone on the internet, but the average strong person will always learn about it through word of mouth or chatting. Under Jia Yan's urging, he carefully told everything about the biochemical mediation stone. Jia Yan asked very carefully this time, even disturbing Donka's practice time. After more than an hour, he left with a happy face. Great. I thought I couldn't use this biochemical mediation stone. It turns out it's because it hasn't been coordinated with brainwave power. Jia Yan rushed all the way back to his residence, feeling excited beyond words. The biochemical mediation stone, to put it bluntly, is an item that adjusts biological genes. What Jia Yan had previously misunderstood was that this biochemical mediation stone could be directly applied to any living creature. But in fact, the biochemical mediation stone requires brainwave communication between living beings. Otherwise, there are so many creatures in the universe with various evolutionary models. How can a small biochemical mediation stone be completely compatible? Therefore, before using them, they need to be communicated with brainwave power, and the biological characteristics are memorized by the mediation stone before they can be used on themselves. This communication takes time. I will definitely not be able to catch up with the first battle. If the three are carried out at the same time, maybe the communication can be completed just in time for the last battle. Jia Yan's eyes are shining even more. Although he is still not sure how much benefit the biochemical mediation stone can bring to him, it can even bring a certain improvement to the star level, which can increase his strength by a certain amount. The cut is for sure. This made Jia Yan extremely looking forward to it. A Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1170. In Jia Yan's opinion, the communication of the biochemical mediation stone requires extremely stable brainwave power, which can be continuously transmitted to the inside of the biochemical mediation stone. This transmission cannot be interrupted. If interrupted, the mediation stone will be completely destroyed. Generally, strong people and even stellar-level communication mediation stones will find a relatively quiet place to communicate silently, and wait until complete communication is completed before merging and devouring it. But Jia Yan couldn't do it. He felt vaguely uneasy, that is, the battle for the boat tickets this time was by no means as smooth as he imagined. If he can make progress before the final battle, even if the progress is immeasurable, it is still what Jia Yan wants to do. So he directly communicated with the biochemical mediation stones, and communicated with 3 of them at once. In the eyes of any strong person, it seemed like he was wasting the precious biochemical mediation stones, because the probability of failure was extremely high. With Jia Yan's communication, the first battle for the boat tickets began. Welcome all viewers and guests to this year's competition for tickets to the Genius Battlefield. The organizers of this event are the 4 top forces in our biochemical starfield, in order to enhance the overall genius strength of our starfield, as well as their future combat power can be described as selfless, and we applaud these 4 major forces. Amidst bursts of cheers and applause, the 4 superpowers of the biochemical star territory appeared on the stage. Jia Yan is in the player's rest area far away from the starry sky. This place is in the starry sky not far from the Genius Star. Although he has arrived in the star area, Jia Yan can feel that the 2 deadly artillery placed on the Genius Star are just aimed at this place, and the firepower happens to be at this distance. Reach maximum power. There are also all kinds of more terrifying methods. Jia Yan even felt that around this starry sky, there were dozens of terrifying black holes that far exceeded those used by Orion arms before when they faced the Fihang forces. Watching in the dark. Haha, it's not an exaggeration to say that it's a dragon's pool and a tiger's den, isn't it? If I cause any trouble, I think I will really escape death. Jia Yan's wry smile became even worse, but his extremely tenacious eyes since his rebirth became more sinister at this moment. It seemed that the danger at this time also aroused his competitive spirit. Anyway, at least until now, he has not felt the emergence of any star-level combat power. If there are 5 pseudo-star level experts, he believes that as long as he operates properly, there should not be much danger. As for those technological means, he felt that as long as he entered the subspace in time, he could still avoid them. Of course, the biochemical star field is not a weak place that Jia Yan has encountered before. There are definitely ways to counter subspace tactics, but Jia Yan is also confident that who is more powerful between the two depends on the actual battle. The result was, Jia Yan naturally does not want to fight in the opponent's lair, but if he really wants to fight, he is not afraid. These 4 forces are the absolute controlling forces in our biochemical star field. Each one has a star-level leader, which is terrifying. Next to Jia Yan, Na Donka looked at the center of focus in the distance, where the spokespersons of the 4 major forces came forward, and kept sighing with emotion. Jia Yan also looked distractedly at the center of countless sights, but quickly turned his head away. Because at that focal point, there are 4 half-stars representing the 4 major forces. Even though their strength has reached the peak of half-stars, 2 of them are even half-stars with medium talents level, but for Jia Yan now, it is no longer attractive. Okay, now the long-awaited boat ticket battle has officially begun. Now let's invite both parties to the first battle. Fortunately, the tone of long speeches was not popular in the starry sky. After the representatives of several major forces spoke, the host turned to preside over the battle. And in the direction where the 4 major forces were originally standing at the half-star level, countless high-tech equipment immediately rose, and then beams of light were shot towards the land with a radius of 1,000 kilometers. The 4.5-star level experts retreated from this place. The creatures looked around and found that the place had turned into a well-equipped battle platform. As the host shouted, the 2 contestants from the first battle also came onto the stage. These are 2 venerable level geniuses who have reached low-level talents. After getting the approval of the host, they started fighting directly. Jia Yan glanced at it casually, and then he also discovered that although these 2 sages had indeed reached the lower talent levels in the genius battlefield, compared with most of the lower talent sages in the genius battlefield, they were too weak. It seems that there is indeed a big difference between those who have entered the genius battlefield and those who have not. Even I am the same. Without the journey of the genius battlefield, I would definitely not be able to reach the current level of strength. Jia Yan is absolutely certain about the genius battlefield, especially the various combat techniques he has mastered after arriving in the genius battlefield. The biochemical star field seems to be too far away from the genius battlefield, so the geniuses selected are all at the venerable level. Even the genius battlefield accepts weaker starry sky level geniuses, but they did not select the starry sky level, the stronger secondary level. They didn't pick either. Because no matter from which level, the venerable level is the most worthy to send. After all, the strength is just right. There won't be too much uncertainty like the starry sky level, and it won't feel like it's too late to cultivate like the sub-Guanju level. Just as Jia Yan was thinking about this, an explosion of light suddenly flashed across the star, and the result of the first battle came out. The winner is a monster with an explosive talent. He seems to be able to detonate a certain part of his body that is in contact with the enemy. The terrifying power that explodes is almost as powerful as a full-strength blow from a moderately gifted master. It can be said to be an extremely powerful killer. Awesome, I will definitely lose if I meet him. Donka's expression changed. In the first game, he saw the gap between himself and other low-level geniuses. That's where a group of geniuses from the border forces are located. Look, they actually have people who are not low-level talents. Haha, I laughed to death. Yes, I also discovered that when the first pair of geniuses fought just now, the faces of the geniuses there changed. They are too weak. Even a battle of this level can scare them. Just when Donka's expression changed drastically, in another area not far from Jia Yan and other venerable creatures, a group of venerable players laughed one by one. It turns out that the rest areas for talented players are arranged according to the location of their respective star regions. Those around the border star region are naturally geniuses from the border star region. And the geniuses further away, although they are also from the edge star region, are better than those here. It's much closer to the center. And the strength is indeed much stronger than the other party. In the star area here, such as the genius at the Hongtian martial arts school that sent Jia Yan and other geniuses here, except for Jia Yan, only one Donka is a low-level genius, and the others cannot even reach the level of low-level geniuses. As for the geniuses in other star regions, almost all of them are low-level geniuses or above. Even if you look at the genius teams in the central star region, almost every one of them is a middle-level genius, and it is difficult to even see low-level geniuses. In contrast, Jia Yan's genius will naturally be laughed at. The people over there are really going too far. The other party's ridicule was not concealed in any way. Donka also heard the laughter and immediately put away his expression and looked over coldly. Oh, there are actually a few of them who dare to look back. They really think they are geniuses. Don't let them meet me later or I won't beat them back to their hometown one by one. Don't laugh. If we didn't have people come here every 3 years to present us with battle achievements, wouldn't we geniuses from the ordinary star sector be beaten by the geniuses from the central star sector? Since they have dreams of going to the genius battlefield, we shouldn't laugh. Ah! A group of geniuses from the surrounding star regions laughed even harder. Beside Jia Yan and other venerables, there were more geniuses from the border star area. At this time, their expressions were extremely depressed. Next game, Donka vs Zidhang. While the two sides were confronting each other, the host on the stage read out the list of combatants for the second round. Donka was stunned. When he saw the ordinary star genius who was just laughing here, he walked out with a happy expression, and then he smiled bitterly. It seems that I am going to lose the first game. Mr. Bai Wangfu, please work harder in the future. Donka walked helplessly towards the fighting platform. The genius on the other side was congratulated by his colleagues around him. You're so lucky. You met someone who gave you points in the first game. Come on and fight. We'll talk after the fight. Okay, I'll deal with him right away. I'm lucky, so don't be too envious of me. Tian Tian was cheerful that day. He also thought that he had picked up Donka when he met him. Even though the strength of both sides seemed to be almost the same, they are all low-level geniuses. In fact, after Jia Yan lightly observed the slight difference in strength between the two sides, he also believed that Donka would lose. As expected, the battle only lasted less than 10 moves. In one move, Donka was hit in the abdomen by the opponent using skilled fighting skills, and was seriously injured and defeated. Jia Yan shook his head. Actually, the gap is not that big to begin with, but the momentum is already weak, and after the moves are a little bit worse, it becomes a huge difference in strength. This is the psychological quality gap between the strong ones. Jia Yan has no intention of avenging Donka, and the two parties have nothing to do with each other. It's just a group of ordinary Star District sages over there, everyone is jumping, and even one of them started to spray Jia Yan directly after seeing that Jia Yan had an average talent. Look, there is actually a medium-talented person there. Do you think that the creatures in the border star area can't even figure out how to evaluate medium-level geniuses, and end up with such a medium-level talent? Let me see, maybe he is just a fake with a low-level talent. If I run into him later, I will definitely be able to defeat him within 10 moves. Haha, if you don't tell me, I haven't noticed that there are quite a few mid-level talent signs over there. In the border star area, there are other mid-level talent geniuses. It makes me laugh to death. I think I can also beat one. No, hit two. Several junior talented sages pointed at Jia Yan and other venerables wearing the competition's medium-level talent logos, and laughed. "Can you hit two of me?" Jia Yan ignored the ridicule of the ants and was not angry. After all, what elephant would care about an ant spitting at his feet? But what a coincidence. After dozens of games, the quotas for both sides were announced, and Jia Yan smiled slightly. This battle is his, and his opponent is the ordinary Star District Lord who is said to be able to defeat Jia Yan. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1171. The result of the battle is obvious. Even if Jia Yan doesn't need to explode with strength, he can still control himself as an ordinary mid-level talent master and defeat the opponent with one blow. However, he still deliberately hit a few more moves. "Asshole, I just lost a little bit." The venerable man seemed extremely unwilling. After losing, he felt that he had not used some of his moves well. If he had used them well, he would have had a chance, and he regretted it extremely. This is the reason why a person with such a strong personality cannot become a truly strong person. Even within the same level, he will be the weakest. If his mentality is not good, no matter how talented he is, it will be useless. Jia Yan shook his head. "Congratulations, Mr. Hieraeo." Jia Yan flew back to the field and heard bursts of congratulations from the sages who came with him. To him, such a battle is just playing house, but to others, every victory is a life-changing victory. It is like an online game on Earth. A person with a full level comes to the novice area and starts killing people. Although it seems very enjoyable, it actually destroys the balance. But Jia Yan doesn't have any regrets. He has his own purpose here, otherwise he wouldn't come if he was invited. Even in essence, I am just a venerable person. I am not in violation of the rules. If I want to blame them, it is their own lack of strength. Jia Yan thought lightly, not feeling a trace of guilt. But what Jia Yan didn't know was that when his battle was over, more than 120 light-years away from this genius star, there is a huge force whose reputation is resounding throughout the biochemical star field. The strongest person in this force looked at the live video of the genius ship ticket battle and smiled lightly. He, as expected, it will pay off for me to listen to what my subordinates told me to change my mood and watch the genius ticket competition. Very good, very good. I am still unhappy about not getting blood essence before, but you actually brought it to my door yourself. Evolved beast, I wonder what your expression will be when you learn that I have discovered it. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Life is a process full of surprises and accidents. Ha ha ha. This terrifying being with astonishing strength smiled lightly. Prepare a super fast lane for me. I want to see a child. Jia Yan, who was on the genius star, didn't know that he had been targeted again by a lifelong enemy. The first day of the genius battle passed very quickly, and he only participated in one battle, and then he waited. The geniuses of the biochemical star territory cannot be underestimated. There are a few in particular who have high-level talents. This star territory is still on the upswing. Jia Yan became slightly solemn after watching a complete round of Starfield Genius competition. Around the Starfield here, the Orion arm is unlucky. It is foreseeable that when several powerful star fields around it cannot stop the rise of the biochemical star field, they will expand outward, and the weak Orion arm will definitely be the first choice. One of several goals. Of course, the Orion arm also has the methods left behind by Senior Tianji as its foundation, but after all, it is something left by an existence that has been dead for hundreds of thousands of years. It is impossible to deal with the power of an entire star field. But if I can grow into a star, it will be of great help to the Orion arm. I hope that after becoming a star, I can intimidate them. During this day's battle, the entire biochemical star territory was like witnessing a visual feast. Countless spectators were satisfied, and even more people admired the newly emerging genius. Back at the Genius Star's residence, the excitement of participating in the genius battle on the first day was still everywhere. Among the 4 or 5 sages who were with Jia Yan, Danka was unlucky enough to meet the low-level gifted venerable from the ordinary star area. The other few geniuses who were not good at all were lucky enough to meet other low-level sages. Although the process was difficult and easy, they all achieved victory. Master Danka, you just lost because of bad luck. I hope you can cheer up. We will work hard together for your sake. That's right, think about it. Without Tuko who could come, he wouldn't even be able to come to the central star area. You are much better than him. There are people around who comfort Danka, and there are people who continue to work hard to practice and recharge their batteries for tomorrow's battle. In short, there are all kinds of people. Jia Yan didn't care about this, he just returned to his room, and then used his brainwave power a little to look at the changes on the Genius Star. After seeing that there was no increase in the 5 pseudo-star level beings, he felt slightly relieved. Take a breath. He knew that if there were no accidents, then these 5 pseudo-star level beings would be the final strength of this genius battle. After all, even if the biochemical star field is powerful, there are not enough stars to be able to send out stars as a commanding presence for every genius ticket battle. The biggest good news is that he didn't feel the emergence of a star-level existence. Although Jia Yan doesn't think he will end well even if it is a pseudo-star level attack, there are still no star-level enemies at this time. That's the best. Jia Yan also explored the enemy's backhand on the planet. The 2 terrifying cannon fires showed no signs of starting to charge, and the black holes outside the planet did not show any movement changes. This made him completely relieved. In fact, it is not that easy to catch Jia Yan. As long as the opponent is not prepared in advance, with his space talent, there is still a chance to escape from the hands of 5 pseudo-star level experts, so check the opponent as long as there is no abnormality. Jia Yan took out 3 biochemical mediation stones. These 3 white stones have actually changed from the chaotic translucent color before to a faint brilliance at this moment. Jia Yan's brainwave power was instilling energy into it almost all the time, and this infusion resulted in these 3 stones, which slowly began to exude an attraction that made Jia Yan salivate. It's true. The joy on his face became even more obvious. He had conducted a more comprehensive investigation into the role of the biochemical mediation stone before, and then he not only knew the correct use of this stone, but also understood what kind of treasure he had obtained. Of course, some creatures would choose a habitable star, after all, it is a long-term source of wealth, but for Jia Yan, he would definitely choose these 3 biochemical mediation stones. They can allow me to gain a huge increase in strength before I advance to the star level. They may even allow me to once again reach the strength I had when using battle armor and concept ships. It will even be of great benefit to me to advance to the star level. After all, the function of this kind of thing is to eliminate useless genes from organisms to the greatest extent possible. Jia Yan looked at the 3 biochemical mediation stones that had been assimilated by his own brainwave power, resisted the thought of devouring them now, and put them away. It will take 10 days for the biochemical mediation stone to be fully used for his own use, which is the day when the super spaceship launches. Before that day comes, Jia Yan's brainwave power must remain stable and cannot fluctuate too much. Otherwise, all 3 stones of mediation will be destroyed. The first day of the ticket battle ended without any accidents. However, Jia Yan felt faintly palpitating. Although he was not sure what would happen, he already felt the urgency of an impending storm. The next day was still calm. Jia Yan defeated another opponent, but this time the opponent became a mid-level talent. Master Bai Wangfu is indeed extremely powerful. He actually defeated a moderately talented genius again. If you look at it this way, ordinary geniuses with moderate talents cannot defeat Mr. Hierio, and if you get into the top 1000 in the ticket battle, you will not continue to fight. Doesn't it mean that you are very likely to get the ticket? The few sages who came with Jia Yan were all wiped out on the second day, and they were reduced to spectators. They were even more looking forward to the Bai Huangfu who came with them. You must know that in their star region, there has not been a genius who went to the genius battlefield for a long time. If they can witness this historic moment, wouldn't they be proud of it for the rest of their lives? Of course, this group of venerables didn't know how proud they would see them in the future. On the third day, it was the penultimate battle. By this time, almost all of the remaining genius masters had low-level talents or above, and many were still medium-level talents. In this day's battle, Jia Yan had better luck. He met a low-level gifted venerable, and the battle was resolved in no time by. This one is called Bai Wangfu. Although he comes from the border star region, his strength lies in his combat experience and his mastery of moves. This is certainly not as simple as Huangfu. If we encounter him next, we must be careful. Each genius has arrived at this battle and has begun to pay attention to the strong ones who have won. After all, no one is weak at this point, and no one wants to give up the opportunity to reach the genius battlefield. Because reaching the genius battlefield represents a glimmer of opportunity to reach the stellar level. Even if that glimmer of opportunity is just a glimmer of opportunity for low-level geniuses, no one can stop their pursuit. As for the medium talent and high talent geniuses, they pay more attention to this opportunity. As long as the high talent genius reaches the genius battlefield, as long as he does not die, he has half the chance to become a star. Of course, the possibility of death is much greater, otherwise the biochemical starfield will not after so many years. They only have so many star levels, but relatively speaking, they are the most eager for the genius battlefield. As for the medium talented geniuses, of course there are many who want to go to the genius battlefield. Even because of their large base, among the several star levels in this biochemical star field, the medium talented ones account for the majority, which makes the medium talented venerable they attach great importance to the trip to the genius battlefield. Puff. When Jia Yan defeated a moderately talented man with another blow. How can this compare to Huangfu, who can even defeat a venerable person who is at the top of the average level of talent? Something's wrong. Why does his strength seem to have no bottom line? In the penultimate battle, Jia Yan met a venerable who was almost at the top of his average talent list. This time, with his compound eyes, he couldn't help but show strength that exceeded his previous performance. This surprised almost everyone among the spectators and participating geniuses. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1172. Jia Yan knew that his secret was about to be exposed, but he couldn't do it without exploding. The inexplicable and strong sense of crisis made him desperate. Finally, on the 9th day of the battle for tickets, which was the day before the ship sailed, a group of geniuses ushered in the last day that could decide the fate of thousands of geniuses. Jia Yan also broke into this battle, and even during this period, he defeated 3 mid-level talent sages. In addition to several high-level talent geniuses, he was even called one of the strongest among this generation of geniuses. The number of combatants in this battle is 2,000, and 2,000 people will fight in pairs. The winner will be the lucky one who can go to the genius battlefield the next day. When it comes to this battle, except for those high-end geniuses, every venerable one is extremely nervous, because at this point, if they encounter a being with similar strength to themselves, all the previous efforts will be in vain. It is impossible for a battle between high-level geniuses to occur in the battle for tickets. It can be said to be a black box operation or to protect geniuses. In short, this is the rule. Your Excellency Bayario, we really didn't expect you to come this far. We feel honored to be able to participate in this ticket battle with you. We hope you can spend today safely. The four sages who came together no longer wanted to compare when they saw Jia Yan. After all, if one person surpassed the others too much, the others would have no intention of comparing. Thank you for your kind words. Jia Yan nodded lightly to the group of fellow travelers. His attitude was getting colder and colder. After all, after tomorrow, the two sides will become people in two worlds again, and to be honest, they have never been in the same dimension as Jia Yan. Pass. A group of venerables were not angry at Jia Yan's attitude. They just felt that the rift between Jia Yan and them was getting bigger and bigger, and they could only shake their heads helplessly. The battle has begun. Geniuses came to power one after another, some were dark horses, and some were sadly knocked off the stage by the enemy. Many geniuses are unwilling to fall to this last step. Finally, the battles passed and it was Jia Yan's turn. But when Jia Yan's name was announced on the high platform, the whole audience was shocked. How could it be? This is actually a battle between a top dark horse and a high-level genius. Logically speaking, the organizer will not allow such a battle to occur. This is hard to say. There have been similar situations before. After all, the organizers also want to let high-end geniuses see more of the strengths among geniuses. This kind of dark horse can pose a certain threat to high-end geniuses and make them a little more prepared for arriving at the genius battlefield. I see, but that's more unlucky than Huangfu. To encounter such a situation, the possibility of going to the genius battlefield is gone. The commotion inside and outside the stadium also had an impact on the venerable people around Jia Yan. Donka was startled, then looked at Jia Yan with a wry smile in front of him, who was about to go on stage. Sir Bai Wangfu, this is luck. Don't be discouraged. If it doesn't work out, just give up. You can come back in 3 years. After all, you are still young and you still have another chance. Yes, Mr. Bai Wangfu, you are facing off against the high-level genius Lu'er this time. This genius is considered powerful even among high-level geniuses. You will definitely get hurt if you fight him head-on. Don't be impulsive. Jia Yan ignored the advice from the rear. His compound eyes flashed with strange brilliance. Is this an accident, or? He was extremely sensitive and felt that none of the defense facilities and the 5 pseudo-star level experts around him had done anything. This made Jia Yan confused and relieved. He thought to himself that this must be an accident. Anyway, after reaching this point, even if something is revealed or some suspicions are aroused, he will still give it a try. In that super spaceship, the commander is a highly gifted half-star powerhouse from the genius battlefield. He adheres to the conditions of the genius battlefield. As long as I meet the requirements of the genius battlefield, then the genius battlefield cherishes talents. No matter what issues I have with the biochemical star territory, they will always open the ship door for me. Jia Yan thought about the information he had obtained before and became more confident. No matter what, after reaching this point, even if he fights, he will give it a try. Then Jia Yan stepped onto the fighting stage under the looks of regret, ridicule, hostility, etc. from a group of onlookers. The high-end gifted venerable opposite him has already come up. This highly gifted genius, whose name is Lu'er, is an extremely famous genius in the entire biochemical star field. Bai Huangfu, I know you. As a mid-level genius, it is really good that you can reach this point. Unfortunately, you went too far and defeated my cousin, so as his cousin, I applied for the event to fight you, and now your road ends here. Lu'er came on stage and actually revealed the shocking inside story. What? This battle was actually requested by Lu'er. It's really a shady story. This kind of battle is not random. It's simply too much. Lu'er told a shocking inside story. One of the players that Bai Huangfu defeated before, the one named Lu Duo, must be his cousin. In order to avenge his cousin, he actually did not hesitate to apply for a shady operation. It is simply disgusting. Haha, this kind of thing is nothing. It's strange that Bai Wangfu is too pushy and dared to defeat Liu Duo without any injuries. As Liu Duo's cousin, it's strange that Lu'er didn't say anything. Each audience and player was extremely shocked by what Lu'er said. However, in this universe where the strong are respected, Lu'er's actions were not unacceptable to them. If they were to blame, it was just can blame Bai Huangfu for being too weak. Originally hearing Lu'er's words, in the eyes of everyone, Bai Huangfu should have been extremely angry, but at this time he was surprisingly calm. Really? This is actually your arrangement? Jia Yan shook his head. He didn't expect that he would reveal a certain level of strength because of a moderately talented venerable he had defeated before. Since you are looking for death, come on, he sighed, seeming to laugh at himself, and at the same time seemed to laugh at Lu'er opposite him. What? I heard wrong. You actually said that I am looking for death. Lu'er was stunned. You must know that he is a high-level gifted venerable. Even among the high-level gifted sages of this generation, he is not the weakest one. The middle-level gifted venerable in front of him actually said that he is seeking death. Wow, Bai Wangfu is so fierce. He actually dared to say such powerful words to Lu'er. There is no way to be kind now. It was enough to defeat Bai Wangfu, but now that he has said such words, and Lu'er wants to find a way to seriously injure him, it is tantamount to losing face. The dignity of a high-level genius cannot be trampled on so easily. Sure enough, after Jia Yan said these words, Lu'er in front of him almost exploded with anger. I'm looking for death. I think it's you who's looking for death. Injure me seriously. No matter how conceited the high-level genius is, take action immediately. After a flash of anger, he charged directly towards Jia Yan. As a highly gifted venerable, he naturally has his own strength, and this strength is absolutely earth-shattering even in the genius battlefield. Yes, even if you have not been baptized by the genius battlefield, you can still deserve the title of a high-level genius. Jia Yan made a faint evaluation of this venerable man in his mind. Although he recognized the opponent's strength, he had no intention of defeat. After all, he is an absolute powerhouse far beyond ordinary geniuses. Level and talent are almost a joke to him now. For a being who can almost step into the stellar level, a mere high-level talent venerable, if he uses his true strength, even a look from the opponent will be beyond his ability. However, now is not the time to explode with strength. Puff! In the sky, an extremely fast shadow suddenly appeared. Jia Yan used his space talent, not to enter the subspace, because that would be too shocking. He just used the twisted space to quickly rush towards the attacking Lu'er. So fast? But what are you doing? You don't use your speed to dodge my attack, but you hit me directly. Are you really looking for death? When Lu'er saw Jia Yan advancing towards him instead of retreating, he said, his demeanor changed again and again. The surrounding players and onlookers also had the same mentality. Crazy, Bai Wangfu is really crazy. First he made words to anger a highly gifted venerable, and now he doesn't dodge the opponent's attack, but charges towards him. What does he think he is? Does he think he is also a highly talented person? It is simply unreasonable. Every audience and contestant felt incredible about Jia Yan's actions. There was no reason other than thinking that he was crazy. Even if you are fast, what's the use of being fast when facing a high-level genius? You must know that high-level geniuses are ahead of middle-level geniuses in almost all aspects, otherwise they would not be a level stronger. When it comes to high-level talent, it is not like a low-level talent. With a certain amount of luck, there is still a chance of defeating a mid-level talent. The gap between high-level talent and mid-level talent is like a deep ocean chasm that cannot be crossed. Everyone looked at the place where the battle took place. Two figures approaching quickly collided with each other almost instantly. Humph, you must be seriously injured now if you dare to despise our highly gifted beings. A highly gifted venerable person who was sitting in the players' seats on the sidelines felt a hint of hostility towards Jia Yan. When he saw the two sides colliding together, he sneered. Huh? That's not right. Another highly gifted genius next to him was about to laugh at the same time, but his expression suddenly changed and he screamed in shock. What's wrong? Could it be? After all, the former was also a highly gifted venerable. He quickly stared at the battlefield, and then a look of strangeness appeared on his face. Sky. He actually blocked it. Impossible. At the same moment, near the entire battlefield that accommodated tens of millions of creatures, all the creatures, including those semi-star level experts, screamed in shock. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1173. In the starry sky, Nalil flew back with a solemn expression. Are you actually also a highly gifted person? He said in disbelief. At the same time, this highly gifted venerable man felt uneasy in his heart. When a highly gifted genius collides with another highly gifted genius, the scene is no worse than Mars crashing into the Earth. Especially in this kind of battle where both sides have to compete for spots, he thinks this battle will become very difficult. At the same time, he was also cursing in his heart, you are a high-level genius. You should have told me earlier. Why are you hiding it? If you had shown yourself to be a high-level genius, even if my cousin was defeated by you, I would not be angry with you. Ah! Now, the two high-level geniuses met together. Although Lu'er was not afraid, he also felt that it was difficult. Under this block, Jia Yan showed a hint of strength, and the entire battlefield was filled with shocked expressions. The most prosperous among them are the four sages who came to this place of genius ticket battle with Jia Yan. At this time, each of them seemed to have seen a scene where the world collapsed, and they were almost speechless for a long time. This, Sir Bai Wangfu, is not only a middle-level genius, but a high-level talent that far exceeds the middle-level genius. We have actually been with a high-level genius for so long. Oh my God! This will be the most legendary experience in my life. The four venerables, including Donka, seemed to feel that they were dreaming, and it was an extremely terrifying spring and autumn dream. It was such an experience to walk with a high-level genius and talk to him a lot even if they were dreaming, they couldn't imagine it. You must know that the status of a high-level genius is too high. Not to mention that it is difficult for a high-level genius to be born in the borderland. Even if he is born, he will not be able to accompany them all the way. Instead, there will be other higher-level warships transporting him with them. Beings who are at the elementary level or have no genius level are not people of the same world at all. However, Bai Huangfu actually ignored his own status and spent so many days with a group of ordinary geniuses like them. To tell the story of it, it was simply a legendary experience. The surrounding creatures were screaming as loud as possible, and it almost felt unreal, but Jia Yan in the battlefield did not have any strange color. Seeing Jia Yan's face, Lu'er's heart sank. He had exchanged blows with Jia Yan before. Although he felt that the power level used at the time was the same as his own, his fighting skills exceeded him by an unknown amount. This blow then, he felt weak. Anyway, if I don't defeat you, it's impossible for me to get the ticket. Fight, he muttered, and then attacked Jia Yan. In fact, Lu'er already regretted it. If he had known that Jia Yan was also a highly gifted venerable, why would he spend so much time fighting with him? Welcome. When Jia Yan saw the opponent approaching at a very fast speed, he moved his body slightly, and the space around him seemed to be compressed. His speed, which clearly looked unpleasant, was actually faster than Lu'er's in front of him. In a circle, he came to the opponent. Behind. No, Lu'er quickly blocked Jia Yan's blow from behind. As a high-level gifted person, he naturally has certain strength. Otherwise, how can he become a high-level gifted person? But Jia Yan was not discouraged by the missed attack and kept swinging his front foot. In the interstellar battle stage, the terrifying fluctuations caused by attacks and defenses made the surrounding onlookers feel that they were not watching a lord-level battle at all. Is this a battle between highly gifted lords? In the past, it was rare for us to see battles between highly gifted geniuses in our star field. I thought that the gap between high and medium talents was not that big, but now it seems that it is simply too far off. It's scary. I am a semi-star strong person. When I see their battle, I almost feel like I may not be able to defeat them. The biochemical star territory protects geniuses with high-level talents and above very thoughtfully. Even the ticket battle deliberately prevents high-level geniuses from fighting together, so ordinary people have not seen battles between high-level geniuses for a long time. And when this battle was shown, they were so shocked that they almost thought there was something wrong with their eyes. But there is also a gap between high-level geniuses. Look, Naba Wangfu suppressed Lu'er with every move. Could this be a battle in which Lu'er was defeated? This is not necessarily true. Lu'er is famous for his endurance, and he has challenged many masters along the way. He has rich fighting experience. Bai Wangfu seems to have a lot of fighting experience, but in a protracted battle, it will definitely not be the case. Lu'er's opponent. Just wait, the battle will begin soon. Since Lu'er is a well-known high-end gifted person, there are many audiences who have expectations for him, especially a group of people who bought Lu'er's victory and hope that Lu'er will win. But what made them despair was that the battle lasted for a full 20 minutes. From the beginning to the end, Lu'er never had an advantage and could only rely on defensive means to block the attack of Bai Wangfu. The expected situation where Lu'er broke out in combat experience and defeated Bai Wangfu in one move did not happen. When Lu'er finally arrived at 20 minutes, Jia Yan saw that the time was almost up, and deliberately acted like he had caught Lu'er's flaw, and sent him flying off the battlefield with one blow. This match, Bai Wangfu wins, the referee said in disbelief that Jia Yan won. Ouch! How could this happen? Oh my god, Bai Wangfu, this dark horse, actually went all the way to the end and even killed a high-level gifted master. Even if he is also a high-level talent, how can he win Lu'er? This is too ridiculous. Because of Jia Yan's victory, terrible discussions and controversies broke out inside and outside the stadium. Obviously many people couldn't bear to see Jia Yan win. But the battle was actually there. Jia Yan's victory could be said to be from beginning to end, without any possibility of being overturned by the opponent. And the audience can also see that even though the physical power and brainwave power are similar, Bai Wangfu's fighting ability and skills suppress Lu'er, which is the real factor in his victory. Almost everyone among the surrounding spectators was stunned. Donka and others who came with Jia Yan cheered crazily. But there were others who were even more excited than them, and that was the senior executives present at the conference. They are a group of semi-star level experts. Why would there be a highly gifted genius who concealed his strength to participate in the battle? Well, originally it was nothing, but the biggest problem is that we actually put him and Lu'er on the same battlefield, and then Lu'er lost. No, the high-level geniuses in each class are the precious combat power of our biochemical star field. If you wait another 3 years, the golden period of genius will be missed. We will give him a special ticket later, but we can't making him miss this trip to the genius battlefield. That's right, but that Bai Wangfu guy is pretty good too. I've never heard of his name before. I guess he's doing hard training there. Such a young man should be encouraged. I'll give him a bigger reward later to make up for it. Several semi-star level experts have either medium talents or high talents. This kind of strength is considered good even in Jia Yan's eyes. The ensuing battle made everyone feel less at ease. After all, there were two highly talented sages fighting in front. No matter how exciting the subsequent battle was, it would not be able to attract the attention of all living beings. Everyone was replaying the previous battle scenes over and over again, and almost everyone was shocked by the excitement and thrill of the battle between the two sides. It's so powerful. If this move hadn't been avoided in a timely manner by Mr. Huangfu, I would have probably lost. What do you know? This is definitely a plan by Mr. Bai Wangfu. Didn't you see that everyone along the way is actively attacking? Let me see, Mr. Bai Wangfu might still be here in this battle. There is plenty of energy left. How is it possible? They are all highly gifted venerables. How can they still have energy left in such a battle scene? You must be overthinking. Several semi-star powerhouses who organized the genius battle found Luer, comforted him when he was almost desperate, and then whispered about the special ticket. Only then did Luer change from sadness to surprise. Wait, Bai Wangfu, I will definitely not be weaker than you. When we get to the genius battlefield, we will determine the ranking. Lu Er seemed to be extremely unconvinced by Jia Yan. After knowing that he could still go to the genius battlefield, his eyes, and full of hope. Looking at Jia Yan in a blink of an eye, he felt a fighting spirit. He wants to surpass Jia Yan. Both sides are high-level geniuses, and he doesn't think he will always lose to Jia Yan. But Jia Yan completely ignored his fighting gaze. To Jia Yan, this gaze was no different from that of an ordinary venerable looking at him, because whether it was an ordinary venerable or Lu Er to Jia Yan, such a highly gifted person is like a small ant on the roadside, which can be crushed to death with one kick. I finally won the last game, but... Jia Yan's eyes were a little ugly. He turned his head and looked calmly at the genius star not far away. The moment he won, the 5 pseudo-star level experts in the genius star all seemed to make some movement. However, when Jia Yan came down from the stage and looked at them quietly, the other party had become quiet again. Have you discovered something is wrong with me? No matter, if you don't take action now, tomorrow will be the day to leave. I don't have to worry at all. Jia Yan comforted himself. However, a sense of uneasiness in his heart kept growing in his heart. That's all, I feel that the biochemical mediation stone can quickly take shape when the brainwave power is increased. Since this power can make me stronger quickly, then I will work harder so that I can use this power as much as possible tomorrow. Jia Yan faintly communicated with the 3 biochemical mediation stones hidden in his body, and the brainwave power suddenly surged, almost causing the mediation stones to tremble, and the transformation process of the mediation stones was quickly carried out. He has been prepared for the worst-case scenario. No matter what, he will board the super battleship bound for the genius battlefield.